Hey everyone, welcome to the Caffeine and Coping Podcast, where real conversation fuel your mind and help you navigate student life with more clarity, courage, and coffee. Today we had a very interesting conversation with Olivier Dionne. He's a psychotherapist and his expertise within couple therapy and family therapy. It was very interesting. We talk about attachment, about couple communication. We talk about navigating college life, our challenge when we were in college, many topics that will be perfect for your February month. So if you like this episode or just want to support us and help us grow, hit like, subscribe, and leave a quick comment or rating. That really make a huge difference to make helping other students discover this conversation. So, all right, let's dive in. And today we have a great conversation with Olivier Dionne. Welcome everyone to this new episode of Caffeine and Coping Podcast. Today we have an awesome guest as usual. It's Olivier Dionne. He's a psychotherapist. He also have studied in social work and he has a thriving practice in couple therapy and many other aspects. And I won't talk too much. I would just want to let him introduce himself because we're going to have today a very interesting conversation about couple therapy, uh, how attachment influence ourselves, our relationships, and different topic amongst that. So, Olivier, how are you doing? And I just want you to introduce yourself.
I'm doing well. Nice to talk to you, Karim. I think it's maybe good for people to know that we were colleagues also, teaching in CEGEP together. And I think you've introduced myself already. You've introduced me already. I'm a couples and family therapist, social worker. I've worked in mental health for about 10 years before starting my own practice in couples and family therapy here in Sherbrooke. And yeah, that's what I do, and I enjoy it very much. And I'll be happy to share what I know and answer your questions today.
Good. So, I have, but first, for clientele or for clientele for students to understand, what is a psychotherapist? Because there's psychologists, there's psychotherapists. What is
Mhm.
different between all those professions so people can understand what you do?
Okay, so the first thing to know is that a psychologist practices psychotherapy. So a psychotherapist is someone who has been given permission to practice psychotherapy by the order of psychologists. So we're practicing the same thing. So what I do is the same thing that a psychologist might be doing. Uh, and social worker is someone who can practice social work, but not psychotherapy. So it's different. You call it psychosocial intervention. It can look, sound, feel, taste like it, uh, uh, but you can't call it psychotherapy. And generally, psychotherapy is goes deeper. You touch on trauma. You touch on the deeper psychological mechanisms that work in someone's life. And when you do the psychosocial intervention, it's more about, okay, what's the person's situation right now? The different spheres of functioning in their life, social, like the people around them, financial, and all of these things, health, and personal development, and all of that stuff. So it's a different approach, um, but both can be very useful in their own way.
Yeah, and as you say, you can go deeper in attachment and trauma and different aspects that kind of forge how we behave and how we enter in our relationship today. When I was planning to talk to you today about family couple therapy dynamics, I put myself back in college, and even in university, and seeing what were the challenges. And I remember uh, at that time of the life, relationships are so intense. There's something super intense. I don't know if you can see it in your practice with the people you're following. I guess you have young adults in your practice that you're following, and also established couple with many years of couple together. So, do you observe particular relation challenge among young adults and students today?
Hmm. Yeah. What's cool is that younger adults and teenagers are now interested in psychotherapy in a way that
Um,
previous generations were not. So that's
yeah.
something I think is really cool. Maybe it has to do with social media and TikTok and all of that. You can scroll and see all these tips about relationship advice, and a lot of them are really good, actually. A lot of them are based in science and have use reputable sources. So uh, I think that young adults are more informed about relationship issues and the jargon around like psychology and psychotherapy. So I think that's really cool. Uh, uh, when it comes to the intensity of relationships at that age, I think it's you know the teenage years and becoming a young adult. This process of differentiation, becoming your own person, figuring out who you are, just for yourself and in relationship to other people. It's always been a thing, right? Since
Mhm.
forever. It's been a rocky period in development since forever. And so it makes sense that if you bring two young adults together that are trying to figure themselves out, and then you put them together to try to build a relationship, it makes sense that there's a lot of intensity there, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of mistakes, and a lot of powerful emotions. It might be more difficult to regulate emotions. It might be more difficult to name your needs. It might be more difficult to understand your needs, to understand your own emotional reactions, to understand where they come from, why you have them. So you're kind of figuring all of this out when you start off in those new relationships, because entering into a relationship is probably the main thing that will bring up past trauma, that will bring up, the history of how you grew up, how you were raised. This is going to trigger all kinds of things inside of you. And if you're a young adult and it's your first serious relationship, then it's all new to you, and you're learning to feel and navigate these things for the first time. You might not express yourself as well as you would, as an adult. So for all these reasons, yes, relationships are hard to navigate for young adults. I think they're filled with challenges.
It's you pointed just right. It's a period as you start to new understand yourself, follow your own values, quitting the family nest a little bit. How can we? How can a young adult as a couple? Because you say I'm becoming me, but when you get into a relationship, you can kind of become we. Is there any suggestion you can make or idea you point out to for young adults to stay themselves inside a relationship? Because we see that often people just get infusion together. Just you mentioned there's communication issues that can show up from that, and you learn from those mistakes. But do you have any suggestion to stay yourself inside a relationship? We all have that friend that you lost because you get in a relationship and
Hmm.
get the infusion with someone.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the most important question around uh, relationships and the idea of relationships and couples therapy and all that. How to maintain individuality inside a relationship.
Mm,
Um, right. So I can answer the long way or the short way. Like the long way would be to go into a discussion about attachment and where it comes
mm.
from.
We'll get there.
And we go there.
We will go there, but we can go there right now if you want, because to help you get in that question, that topic, how much you think of our past and family history get get back, yeah, appears in our relationships? Like how much of that can is reflected, I want to say, in our really present relationship today?
I think it's a lot of it comes up. You know, I can give you an example that comes to mind. So let's say you're the last of a family of five, and you're the youngest of the family by a large margin, and so you learn to never compete to be at the top or to be in control. You learn that you're never going to beat your siblings. So then you learn to please. You learn to be the good boy. The youngest in the family often end up in that position, or the good girl. And uh, then they bring that into the relationship. They find a partner often who has drive, and they want to please. They want to they don't want to get into fight. They want to avoid conflicts. They want to make sure the other person's always happy, and they struggle to name their own needs. They struggle to name their concerns, to name the things that bother them. And then the other person gets annoyed at that for not knowing what's going on in the other person's mind. So that's just one example of how people bring their upbringing into their relationships. And it's hard to figure out without help, but it's not impossible. But you really have to get into thinking about these things, right? Um, so another example could be uh, growing up in a family where love is conditional, right? Where I'm not too sure how important I am. I'm not too sure if, you know, I'm the priority, or if dad isn't more interested with his new girlfriend than me. So what that does is it brings insecurity, right? Insecure attachment, and we'll get back to that later. And someone that's insecure then in a relationship might always be afraid that, oh, I might be abandoned. Uh, they might leave me. And so jealousy might be something that comes up often, wanting to have some control over the other person so that they don't go out too much because they might find someone else. And that might create conflict. So that's just another example, and really it's endless. So these are stereotypes, uh, but it's really endless. And in therapy, that's part of the work we do. We try to uncover the strings that tie up current behavior to past history, to how the people grew up in their family of origin.
This reminds me, a very excellent point, Olivier. It reminds me of a client I was following in couple therapy as well, and she main trigger she has is when her husband, when he lie on the couch after drinking and start getting sleepy. That was she was out of her mind at those moments. A regular rule, I don't know if you agree, when a situation gives us a disproportionated emotional reaction, it always speaks about us, about something that happened before. You can be irritated by a behavior, but when you're extremely irritated, there's something going on that speaks about you. That person reveals something about you. And through discussion, we observed that this reminds her, like I ask her, how far that emotion comes from. What comes in mind when you think about that? And what it reminds her of when her father was passed out and she was a kid and was on a couch and she was playing around with Barbies and stuff and he was passed out.
Pass that on the couch
She,
drunk. Yeah.
yeah. So that was one impact on how childhood can sometimes influence how we love today, the way we love. So she has a husband that she has to do everything for, like she did. She was a parent of her dad,
Mhm.
early on. What do you
Yeah.
think about that relationship style?
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about the familiarity of an emotion, right?
Mm,
Asking a client, is that a familiar feeling? Is that an emotion that you know well, that you carried with yourself for a long time? And they'll often know the answer right away.
right away.
Um, so yeah, I like that. And what you say also about having powerful reaction to something going on in the present, a reaction that seems to be uh, maybe disproportionate to the situation. It tells you something about yourself. Yeah, that's for sure. I really like that, and it takes courage to want to face that and to investigate uh, your own, your own reactions, as opposed to blaming the other person.
Yeah. So if I say, Olivier, is love enough to make a couple thrive, you think?
I think it's a big part of it. I think it's important. Um, and is it enough? No. Is if that's all there is, no, it's not enough. Uh, but if it isn't there, it's a problem, I think.
When we say love, we're talking connection. How can we define this?
Uh, that's
What is love, Olivier?
I think I really want to be careful to differentiate between um I don't know what the word is in English, but coup de foudre. What's that in
Yeah,
English? Do you know?
I'm being struck.
To be like a uh
Fell in love, like in
love at
Francis
first sight,
movies.
let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh I'm to me there's love can be built. I'm not saying that you need to find someone and it's like, oh, we're soulmates and we're deeply in love and all I can do is think about her or him or them and it's the it's going to be forever and just like in the movies. That's not what I'm talking about. I think
Mhm.
you can be with someone that's a friend at first and over time the feeling of connection grows and we trust each other and something inside you tells you it's the right thing to do to stay with that person, to be with that person. I feel good, I feel comfortable, I feel I can be myself, I feel like I want to be here with them for a long time. Like I know it's an abstract definition,
Mhm.
but that's what it means to me. It's not this passionate, powerful feeling that you have in your chest. It's more nuanced than that. And if you don't have that, like if you don't have this sense that you're lucky to be with that person, that you want to be with that person, that it's a choice to be with that person, then the foundation for the relationship will be shaky. So yeah, it's important to have love in a relationship for it to work well. Um, and then can it work without it? I think plenty of people did uh, do that. Like there's no love at all, and we're just functioning, and we're a
Mhm.
team, and we're making it work. We're it's basically coworkers, running the family. I think it's possible um, to
This
do
might
that
be
too.
less present in young adults, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that the previous generations did it more
Mhm.
because to separate and
Responsibilities.
divorce was not acceptable or not as common. So people would just find someone and then stick with that same person forever. And in many of those cases, they managed to build love, if
Mhm.
we stick to the definition that I gave before. But in many cases, they did not, and they just kept going because that was the thing that they knew was the right thing to do. You know.
For the family, for example, and safety, kind of security. Can you talk a bit about attachment and how it shapes us, our relationships? And we can start by why some people fear being left alone and the other one, the couple, to be too close from the other one, and why they are in couple together. Those.
Hmm. So that's we'll go back to the long answer that I wanted to give you earlier. So t- you know, attachment starts from conception, right? You're
Mhm.
one with your mom, you're one with your parent, and then there's the moment of your birth, and at this point you're separated from your mom. From the time of separation anxiety starts, right? And you can observe it in any baby. If you put them away from their mom, they'll cry to be reconnected,
Mhm.
to be close to their mom soon enough. And if that separation is maintained, the baby's distress is going to increase over time. And so we all have it. It's not just some people that are insecure. We all have a level of insecurity, every human being, in terms of attachment, in terms of being afraid of loneliness, being afraid of never being loved and cared for. It's a universal human condition. But based on how we grew up, did we grow up with a secure attachment to our parents, to our mother, or a significant adult, or did we grow up feeling disregarded, feeling abandoned, feeling not cared for? Then it's going to intensify that feeling of insecurity, and all kinds of defense mechanisms will be put in place to protect ourselves from abandonment and from the pain of uh, loneliness and potential abandonment. So then, to come to your question about two people coming together. So let's say you have someone that I just described, who's really anxious in terms of attachment. They're afraid of being abandoned, and they come to a relationship with someone who's secure, someone who had parents that were available and present, at least good enough, right? The person who's secure might not understand the constant demand for more closeness and connection, might find it overwhelming over time, and eventually it might be too much, and it might lead to abandonment, right? So the person with abandonment issue is unfortunately often going through lots of abandonment, right?
Hmm.
The
Kind of
the the
re-traumatize yourself through that.
Yeah, not on purpose, but by trying to avoid it, sometimes you bring it upon yourself. So now we talked about secure attachment. We talked about the anxious attachment style, and then there's a third. There's actually four, but the three more important ones are secure, avoidant, and anxious. Now, there's another type of attachment that stems from the same thing, insecurity in terms of uh, uh, you know, uh, attachment, connection, and fear of abandonment. The avoidant, instead of desperately wanting to be really close, they are afraid of closeness for fear of abandonment. So they prefer to have short term relationships that are intense and fun and pleasurable, and then avoid those relationships getting too intimate, too close, by leaving them before it gets to that point, because that would be too dangerous for them. And one thing that's interesting is that avoidant and anxious type individuals tend to get together a lot, because the avoidant, who's really looking for an intense experience of connection, is quite attractive to the anxious individual who's looking for love. So
Mm-hmm.
then the anxious gets together with the avoidant and is really passionate for a short period of time. And eventually, the anxious is looking for more, wants more closeness, more exclusivity, more time together. They want to project into the future, and the avoidance struggles to do that. Struggles to they get anxious the more committed the relationship becomes, and eventually they find a way to leave. And the anxious person then uh, is being abandoned again, and it's quite hard. It's quite hard for them. And yeah, it can also be hard for the avoidant, who ends up repeating that cycle over and over and
Mm-hmm.
wondering why they're stuck in that cycle, and asking themselves questions too. So yeah, so that's the to answer your question about an avoidant individual or and an anxious person coming together. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be it.
absolutely. And can you talk about the disorganized attachment style?
Disorganized is more rare. You don't see it that often, and it's a mix of avoidant and anxious. So it's often people who've had a more difficult upbringing with more trauma, unpredictable kind of care, where sometimes the care is good, sometimes it isn't, sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. So that might bring up the uh, disorganized attachment style. So to give you an example, so the person at the beginning of a relationship, when it's just starting off, the person might be really anxious because they're afraid of abandonment. They don't think of themselves as good enough. And then when the relationship becomes serious and the other person gets really interested and wants to project in the future, then they get avoidant because they're afraid of abandonment, or they're afraid of commitment, and then they decide to leave. So then it's a bit of a roller coaster of avoidance and attachment anxiety back and forth. It's really, really intense. We all go through that roller coaster, but when someone's has a disorganized attachment style, it's really causing distress to the point of affecting functioning and mental health, and it's quite uh, they're powerful emotions, really powerful emotions.
What do you recommend for a student listening to us and be like, hey, I can recognize myself in this. I cannot commit in a relationship. I'm afraid to. That doesn't mean they have this attachment disorder, whatever the style. But what do you recommend for someone who see themselves in this? Like they see the pain, they see the fear in their relationship, they want to quit. What do you recommend to those people?
Yeah. Um, so first of all, we should all see ourselves to a certain extent. Like no one enters into a new relationship and not feel any kind of either anxiety, like will this person reject me or not, or fear of is this the right person? Like, am I committing to something that's not the right thing? Right? Some form of avoidance, some form of anxiety, or both, is going to be a part of any relationship. So so everyone should recognize themselves, and it's okay to have some of that. It's impossible to get rid of all of it. It's just like I said in the beginning, it's part of the human condition. Um, but what you can do if you feel like your emotions are beyond what is normal, like it's affecting your functioning, it's affecting your mental health, you're having thoughts about hurting yourself, you're having thoughts of uh, uh, you know uh, um, um, invasive or intrusive thoughts about all of it. And then what you can do first is slow down, right? You're still young. Maybe working on yourself and taking the time to figure yourself out and heal. Maybe going to therapy. There's therapy offered at the college, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken,
Yep.
and trying to figure out where that comes from. Why do I feel that way? Why is it so intense for me and it doesn't seem to be for other people? And to progress. And once you feel like you've put your finger on a few issues and that uh, you know yourself better, then it's time to maybe try again. And once when you try the next time, if you know what kind of attachment you have, let's say you know you're avoidant. Okay, so maybe getting with someone that's really anxious that wants to be with me all the time, maybe not a good idea. If you're anxious, maybe getting with someone avoidant who wants to be on their own all the time, wants to travel without you, who wants to have be with their friends all the time, who struggles to commit to the future, maybe it's not a good match, right? So to be careful about that. And the thing is, often anxious people are attractive to avoidant individuals, and the opposite is also true. Someone avoidant who's has many friends, who's can talk to you about all kinds of adventures, is passionate, appears to be extremely interested into you, then that can be really attractive
Hmm.
compared to someone who's secure, compared to someone who's a bit more anxious. um, it might be less attractive to go towards these kinds of people. So and I know I'm labeling people like the anxious, the avoidance, the this, the that.
Yeah, but
That might sound a little weird, but these things are fluid, meaning that someone can be avoidant for a period of their life, and then you can be secure at other times, depending on who you're with, and then you can be anxious depending on who you're with, right? Someone that's secure that ends up dating an avoidant, someone that has avoidant tendencies, all of a sudden might start to feel really anxious because the person
mhm.
doesn't appear to be really available. Um, so yeah, so those labels are not hard labels that you should stick stick to yourself forever. But it's good to know your tendencies.
So are you saying that we can change our attachment style through the relationships?
Yeah,
It's possible to change them, yeah?
yeah, definitely. Someone anxious with someone secure who's available, patient, not freaked out by the demand for connection can help someone get to a secure point over time without that anxious individual needing to get therapy. Right? It's possible for sure.
Okay. So what you're saying is, but like the same we do in therapy, like with recreating a positive, secure, safe relationship, someone, the, the alarm in the brain can stop ringing at some point. But is it possible without that self awareness, just through that connection?
I think so.
Nice.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I do think that relationships can heal, but relationships can damage as well. All
Hmm.
right. So relationships are going to heal if they're healthy. And sometimes if you're not to a point where you can be in a healthy relationship with someone, then you're not going to find a healing relationship. So the answer is yes, but it's with the caveat of if you're too if you're struggling too much with past trauma, it'll be hard to find the right relationship that can heal you. So you have to take care of that maybe.
What do you think breaks more couple today? Infidelity or emotional avoidance?
Emotional avoidance for sure. Um, and avoidance is not only like depends how you define it. Like yeah,
Being
go ahead.
disconnected from your partners,
Yeah, I think
bottle up, keep it inside, not talking.
yeah. So I think infidelity is mm, rarer. Like you don't see it as much, but it's a lot more potent. Like it's going to destroy a relationship in one
Hmm.
hit. Like it's a uh, cataclysmic event in a relationship. While emotional disconnection and distance and avoidance is insidious. Like it can seep into any relationship,
Hmm.
and it's everywhere. It's in most long-term relationship are going to have phases where there's more distance and disconnect. So I think that by far emotional avoidance has destroyed many more relationships than infidelity.
In that same topic of communication, I want to bring you in on this. It's people often feel attacked when they discuss in their relationship, like and then it's escalate. So how can a couple can recreate a safe space for a dialogue when the dialogue hasn't existed for a long time? And I give you an example maybe before you answer something that I observed. And those frameworks of theory, it's sometimes we speak through anger, in a relationship where there's jealousy, there's anger because you did that. We speak on secondary emotions instead of what's really inside. And when we take the time to slow down, most people don't want to are angry because they want to be seen, or angry because they don't want to be left alone, on the primary emotion. They want to be cared of, be seen, be considerate, So how can we work on this aspect in a relationship and see people that always feel attacked to the main every critic they can have in their communication?
Yeah. So I think you kind of you gave most of the answer yourself, meaning that you're if the reason why people are so reactive towards each other instead of telling the truth about their vulnerability and why they're hurt and why they fight instead is because it's their defense mechanism that's stepping up to protect them as opposed
Mm,
to the it's too vulnerable. I don't feel safe towards you, meaning my partner, to share that with you. So instead, I'm going to fight you. Or you've hurt me so much to the point where I don't have access to that vulnerability anymore. All I have access to is the defense that popped up, which is anger or resentment or aggression. Uh, these are ways to protect ourselves when we don't feel like we can be vulnerable. Uh, so yeah, and people are reactive when the relationship doesn't feel safe, when the relationship is a competition, when the relationship is um, not meeting their needs, and they've tried to ask, and it's there's not been a positive response or any kind of change. And so then people turn to protecting themselves, and it's often the state in which couples come to couples therapy.
At that, when they're at that point.
When people come for help, they're often at that point where they struggle to
Mm.
talk, they struggle to connect, they struggle to have a conversation about anything at all. Right.
Mm-hmm. Everything's become
Um,
sensitive,
yeah.
and defense mechanisms showed up. So it goes back to attachment and childhood impacting their relationship, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all
Okay.
connected.
So you're saying, if I understand well, it's in order to build to be vulnerable with your partner, for everybody listening to us, you need to be able to create a connection, to foster something inside so you can feel safe communicating certain topics, you know? So how many young couples navigating in, I don't know, it's a tough question, but maybe I'm wrong, but it seems more difficult today to connect for young adults in that world where it's a lot of communication via internet, texto, whatever app they're on, and everybody's over connected also together, never leave the conversation. So is there many issues or recommendations you have so people can still be really connected, not just
Mhm.
confusion, let's say?
Yeah. So the phones, the technology, video games, TV shows, all of that facilitates avoidance, facilitates not only avoidance from the relationship and the struggles in the relationship, but also the struggles that we have inside ourselves. Right? It's like a drug. So you can, let's say you're anxious about something, you turn to your phone. Most
Mhm.
people will do that. You're depressed about something, you turn to your phone. And so then people have access right in their pocket to something that prevents them from processing emotions, and prevents them from processing some issues that are happening in between them and in their relationship. So I think, yeah, it might be harder in that way. There's kind of one more challenge, but it's easier in another way because I feel, like I said in the beginning, I feel like young adults are more literate about what's healthy communication, what's a healthy relationship, what it should look like, what it should feel like. Well, if you go back a few generations ago, that template wasn't as clear, and I think people were putting up with more crap. Uh, so, uh, and it's not, obviously it's not universal what I'm saying. Like some people are putting up with quite a bit of crap nowadays too. But in general, I'm
Mm.
generalizing. So yeah, I think it's a challenge, that the technology can be in the way. And what's the cure? Well, the solution probably would be to make the effort of connecting. And so that means I'm coming home from school. I just want to drop everything down and go on YouTube or play some games. But I see my partner is there and she's still mad from, or they're still mad, or he's still mad from last night. I'm not going to drop everything and go play my games. I'm going to go sit with them and ask what's up. Right?
Mhm.
If you want your relationship to work, you have to put in a lot of work. Uh,
Yeah, I put it on the agenda.
yeah, it's effort, it's work, it's courage, because you need to be courageous to go and sit down and talk to someone and give them space to tell you why they're angry at you or why you hurt them. It takes courage and really wanting to fix things. So and the ability to take responsibility for your your part.
We didn't mention in this, it's very interesting because it takes courage, but it takes courage also in communication to listen. You know, that's a big part of it. When you communicate with you said in your example, if you feel hurt or if you hurt your partner in some way, some behavior, your partner wants you to listen so they can be vulnerable and be heard in the pain they're facing. You know, so it's tough to do those things. It's very tough. And I put myself back, if you can zoom out from this, because being 18, 19, like we just said, let's say for example in college, like many people are the first generation of their family going to college. They move out from going apartment for the first time. They discover they don't know. I remember being stressed at that time. What I want to do with my life? What is it? So many possibilities. There's so much going on. So if we zoom out from, or we put aside couple therapy, couple advice, if you put yourself back, Olivier, at that time, what would you recommend someone 18 years old facing that new world we're walking in and everything that happened right now?
In terms of relationship
In
advice.
in terms of staying adapted and sane, kind of not sane, but to manage anxiety and staying adapted, because it is the most stressful studied period of human life. No, yeah, having children is something stressful, but because that time of the life, quitting studies,
Hmm.
that's a
Hmm.
lot of adaptation. You're defining
Yeah,
yourself and your clientele without being like saying ethic, but what do you see like main challenges and what do you recommend really for someone that age facing?
yeah. So, like for myself, I remember I went to Champlain as well. So,
Mm,
um, coming out of high school, being 17, and kind of disoriented a little bit. You're coming from a really structured environment where you don't have to make many decisions for yourself, aside from do I want to do strong math or weaker math, and aside from that, that's about it.
mhm,
In college, you have to kind of figure out what do I want to do for the rest of my life, which is a scary proposition. You lose your friend group very often. You might be speaking a different language. You might be in a different country, like you said, or it might be the first time in your family that anyone goes to college. So there's some, you're carrying this burden on your back that it shouldn't be possible. You shouldn't be here. These beliefs about yourself, feeling like an imposter. And so yeah, it's you trying to figure yourself out, trying to become to it's the process of individuation, it's called. So you're trying to become an adult to become yourself and figure out who that is and what that is. And at the same time, you have 7 and 8 classes, and you're being asked to do something that's extremely difficult, like a tremendous workload, and you're doing
mhm,
things you've never done before, and it's quite challenging. I can remember being very, very anxious and struggling during that time. So what I recommend, I'm not saying I did these things, but what I recommend would be, stay away from any psychoactive substance like weed, especially like those wax pen thing, to not touch any of that. Be careful about the drinking, not too much of it, because your brain is, going, 1,000 miles a minute, trying to become an adult brain. That's happening all the way until you're 25. So if you just mess with it with too many drugs and alcohol and stuff, well, obviously you're not going to help with your anxiety. You're not going to help with your feeling overwhelmed and depressed and demotivated. And so being careful about that. I'm not saying to not do it at all. It's fine to experiment. It's fine to have fun. But if it's a regular thing that you're doing every day, well, you're setting yourself up for lots of problems. So being careful about that, making good friends, being careful about the who are the people you connect with, yeah, making sure they're a good influence, they can support you, they can help you, uh, and to do the same for them if you can. So that's another advice, and also to pace yourself. That's something like for me, I started in social sciences. I had 8 classes, and I failed a few of them, and I dropped out of another few of them, and I was quite overwhelmed. And then I went back and I slowed down. I was doing 4 to 5 classes, and it took me 4 years to do it instead of 3. And I managed to finish. So I paced myself. And then, you graduate, you're what, 22 instead of 21, or 21 instead of 20. It really makes no difference.
No.
And you're going to be all the better for it. I know that your academic advisor might tell you, don't do that. Don't get off course. Don't get off course. But to me, it was the best thing that I did to pace myself. It was too much for me. I was living in my own apartment, so I had to work at the same time, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I think so. That's another advice I would give. And finally, if you're really, really struggling, well, therapy. You can do online therapy on different platforms like Inkblot or BetterHelp and stuff like that. And or you can use the resources on campus, but to talk to someone, talk talk to a professional about your struggles, um, and that can be a really big help.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And like I like you say when you said that you need to pace yourself and to slow down if necessary. It's okay. And it's true that at that time of our life, we feel, and in my practice, I see it too, people feel they're so behind. I miss on life. I'm behind. My group of friends are 1 year ahead. You feel like you're behind. But when you look out and you take a look at the big picture, you're not behind at all.
Hmm.
At all. And you can fail, you can move on, you can do it again. Like you said, you drop few classes. And last week I was doing the podcast with the psychiatrist, and she said I failed my math in high school, and it's okay. She just strive after and kept going. So these are a good recommendation. I like what you're saying, and I will add to that for our students to, because when we observe discovering who we are in that world, when we are discovering that group of friends, and I mean it's tough to make a group of friends, but to do action that fits what your gut feeling tells you it's important to you. Not what you feel it's important to just connect with everyone, to not being alone, but what feels right. What is important? What do you enjoy? You like fishing, you like sports, you like food, whatever is your thing, music. Start doing slow steps, slow action towards those things that are important. And being aware of what drags you away. Like the example you give on, you feel anxious and you go on social media right away because you don't want to feel any pain.
Hmm.
Being brave is facing pain, like in a relationship, to be able to talk, even if it's painful,
Yeah,
or hear.
yeah, absolutely. And I like that. Right, that's part of the what you're saying about what is it that I want, what is it that I need, right?
Hmm.
Who is it that I am? These are questions that um, you know, uh, they're important to answer, and they're important to keep at the forefront of your mind. Because if you
Hmm.
get either in a friend group or in a relationship that demands you to be something else, and that you need to put
Yeah.
aside those questions, then you're basically delaying your individuation process. You're delaying the time where you can finally become the person that you're supposed to be. So, yeah,
That's where we find them at 29, 30. Who I am. What do I love? I don't know, So, like to, because we were always on the eyes of someone else or whatever it is.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
interesting. Obviously, at that time of the life, there's so much breakup everywhere. Your boyfriend, girlfriend, people you were with on high school, you in college, you're from another city. Try to keep it together. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out. It happens a lot, and it's part of the transition and becoming yourself. It will be a tough question, Olivier. But what do you recommend for someone that to move through the grief or the breakup? To
Yeah.
to to move
So,
through that.
yeah, my answer might not be very popular.
Don't
So,
say ice cream and tequila, please.
yeah, that too.
Like in the
Uh,
movie.
that could work. So I think that grief is not pathological,
Mm-hmm.
and being hurt from having been abandoned or a breakup is not pathological. I think that anger, sadness, even feeling desperate, feeling like there's no more hope, it's the normal reaction to a very, very difficult situation. So the reason why I say you might not like my answer is because the main thing that will do it for you is time.
Mm.
It's just surround yourself with the right people. Try not to isolate, but at times you might need to be alone. Try not to hurt yourself by making bad decisions, um, and try to move on by doing, going to class, or doing sports, moving around, spending time with friends, and over time, you're gonna chip away at that grief. Over time, you're gonna integrate it. Talking about it, obviously, to a professional can be helpful, or talking about it with friends can speed up that process a little bit. But it takes a lot of time, and it's really painful, whether it be losing someone, like literally losing someone, or a bad breakup. These are just painful, and there's no way to get around it. And if you find a way to really get around it, like tequila and ice cream, it's probably not good, because then you're just pushing the problem further away, and you're gonna have to deal with it eventually.
Good answer. And this has been studied though. If you put your energy not to feel and think about something and you don't want to feel a thing, this takes more space inside of you, and anxiety rise. The more you try to push it away, the more it comes back. And there's I don't know, in the training I had at some point, he said, why will you, let's say you have a hard breakup because you love that person. The pain you feel as sadness comes from the importance you attach to that person. So the pain comes from love, It's something very important. So why would you throw that love away, That is your body, your whole soul signaling you that there's something important there to you.
Yeah,
Basically, emotion have all the function, anger, you have to defend yourself, fix limits, sadness, it slows you down. You need to reflect and stay together with people you care.
yeah. You have to listen to them. It's like that movie, Inside Out,
Yeah.
from Pixar, where that little girl Riley has these emotions in her mind, and sometimes they take over. Well, you these emotions, they have things to tell you, and it's okay to have conversations with them, a back and forth conversation with them, of uh, what is it that you're trying to tell me, kind of thing. And
Mm,
you'll often get the answer. You'll often know the answer intuitively of what those
yeah.
emotions are trying to communicate.
These are all tools. So what you're saying is navigating college life is being self-aware. Listen to those emotions. Listen to those cue when you trigger in your relationship, just to be aware of what's going on. Does it speaks about me? Can I just breathe in and out to slow down academically, but also in my relationship, just to take the time to feel those things, even if it's uncomfortable? You're saying doing this, the outcome is always better.
I'm saying, uh, I think, getting into relationships. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but uh, getting into relationships, even though it might be really hard at that age, uh, even though there might be more struggles than there would be later on, it's going to be a mine of information for you. You're going to learn about yourself, yourself individually, yourself in relation to other people, and you're going to grow through those relationships. To unless the relationship really is like completely unhealthy and violent, or abusive, obviously you're not going to
Mhm.
learn much about yourself. You're probably going to get hurt. But most relationships, even if they don't end well, even if they don't go very far, even if it's really painful when it ends, they're a necessary stepping stone to to become that person that can find a healthy relationship. or the right relationship.
Yeah. I had a teacher that told me in the past, through pain, there is consciousness. That's where it comes from. You remember very well when you were 5 years old and you fell off your bike. You remember it was a sunny day or not. You remember everything from that event. So he's same in the relationship. Through that pain, you remember what you want, what you don't want, what happened to you there.
Yeah.
I have two
Yeah.
last questions for you. I don't want to hold all your time, but if there was one simple habit like a couple could start practicing this week, listening to us, what would it be, you think?
Hmm. I don't have many of those cookie cutter type of exercises to give to couples because what I ask them to do is often tailored to their specific issue.
Mhm.
But if I was to give one, would be the simple one of, and it's a cliche, but having scheduled time, and if not scheduled, at least a habit. Let's say the habit of eating together every night, where we're checking in with each other. We're having a conversation about how we're doing, how we're feeling, and what we need, what we want, what's coming up. Um, so to stay connected, to
Mm,
not lose that. You asked a question earlier about emotional avoidance and disconnection and distance. And my answer was that it's everywhere, and it's a problem that every couple has to address and to be aware of. So to fight that, you need those regular times of connection and check-ins, and where you're on the same wavelength, right? To keep the couple on the same wavelength, where they speak the same language and they know what's going on in the other person's mind, and if their needs are being met or no, and all of that.
good answer. And through all your experience, not just for relationships, couples, or family, if you could speak directly to students who right now feel confused, overwhelmed in their relationships or in their life at 18, 20, 19 years old in college, what would you tell them?
hmm I think it's normal to be confused at that during that stage, that when there's so much unknown ahead, and it's it's uh it's disorienting. And so I would go about it saying, right, so I just want to get through it in one piece, make the best choices that I know I can make on the micro level, right? Should I go to that party till 3 a.m. or study? If you have an exam tomorrow, well, you probably should stay home and study, right? So to try to spare yourself some trouble, and to trust that over time, as you grow up, as life throws different experiences at you, that eventually you'll find your path. There's no point in worrying all day about what is it that I should do and what will I be and what will I do, and being afraid about what's to come. I think that it's one way to approach it is one day at a time, to break it up into smaller pieces, to do the best you can. And if you don't feel like you can do that, then to go get help. Um, and That's how I would kind of fight that feeling of powerlessness or confusion that can be quite oppressive, around that uh, age range.
On that note, Olivier, I want to thank you so very much. If a student want to join you, your therapist that you don't know, of course, there's ethical guideline. You can probably Google your name and find you. And thank you for your time. And
Yeah,
I wish you have a nice evening.
it was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bye.